Africa needs a new kind of leadership. All right. The days of the great Amilcar Cabral from Guinea-Bissau, who is considered to be the second greatest world leader of all time. Amilcar Cabral did so much for Africa and the world, and many Africans don't even know who he is. Many certainly know Kwame Nkrumah, Julius Nyerere, Thomas Sankara, Nelson Mandela, but Amilcar Cabral is greater than all of them. Even Robert Mugabe, Felix Ofoe-Boye, Habib Bourguiba, Leopold Sedar Senghor, and the likes are long behind us. But none of these are close to Amilcar Cabral, the Bissau-Guinean leader. Africa is utterly lacking in the kind of visionary, upstanding, and courageous leaders who are capable of meeting the increasingly complex challenges the continent is facing, while serving as an inspiration to its people. We have chosen a different path to achieve better results. We have chosen to establish new techniques. We have chosen to seek forms of organization that are better adapted to civilizations abruptly and once and for all rejecting all kind of outside dictates so that we can create the condition for dignity in keeping with our ambition, and we refuse simple survival. We want to easy pressures to free our countryside from medieval stagnation or regression. We want to democratize our society, to open up our mind to a universe of collective responsibility, so that we may be bold enough to invent the future. These words, which resonate with Africans now more than ever, come from an address delivered by Thomas Sankara before the General Assembly of the United Nations on 4 of October 1984. He was one of Africa's last great leaders, along with Nelson Mandela, of course, to have shaped the continent's recent history. Sankara, whose popularity was exemplified by the fact that his fellow citizens affectionately called him the people's captain, embodied what a country looks from a political leader: vision, intelligence, courage, empathy towards the citizen, audacity, and a sense of duty and the greater good. This kind of leadership is mostly absent today, and Africa isn't the sole continent affected. The days of Charles de Gaulle, France, Winston Churchill, UK, Lee Kuan Yew, Singapore, Patrice Lumumba, Zaire, Felix Ofoe-Boye, Côte d'Ivoire, Leopold Sedar Senghor, Senegal, Habib Bourguiba, Tunisia, and Gamal Abdel Nasser, Egypt, are distant memory. Let's be honest here. While we are plagued by a global leadership shortage, led by the political vacuum created by our gross incompetence of some of today's head of states, including, former head of state Donald Trump and Jair Bolsonaro from Brazil, we have to acknowledge that the world has changed significantly, and being a leader today is much harder. Having a real vision and the courage to implement it simply doesn't cut it anymore. For starters, the challenges our leaders face are much more complex and difficult. In the area of yesterday, countries were fighting for independence, the construction of a nation, state democracy, and economic sovereignty. In that order, in a relatively clear-cut global environment, but today, the list of challenges and pitfalls to avoid is enough to send shivers down the spine of the hardest of the leaders. Against an exceedingly complex backdrop, where everything is moving faster and becoming more transparent, our world is being refashioned by the impact of the globalization, the digital revolution, climate change, the burgeoning aspiration of an ever-expanding youth population, the need for the continent to find its place in the world, terrorism, the thirst for change, the growing need of communities, etc. The emergence and the all-encompassing power of social networks, at once magnifying and distorting our world while serving as a sounding board. And People's Court has created yet another obstacle for our leaders. Every single move they make, no matter how insignificant, is under public scrutiny, inviting comments and criticism. Last but not least, leadership can no longer be vertical paternalism like old school management technique in which the leader was followed by his troops without being second guessed. It's outdated. It's over. Nowadays, leaders have to bring everyone else on board, be inspiring. The latest craze make things meaningful and persuade, explain, and justify their decision. They also have to think about well-being on top of the growth and development in short. A leader can no longer say, that's the way it is, and that's it. Even if they are warranted in saying as much. They can say, it is what it is. It's the way I want. While real political leaders, and by that I don't mean strongmen, autocrats, or head of states in the Arab world, seem to be one of the so many endangered species. Africa needs them more than ever. There are perhaps a few exceptions to his rule. In Rwanda's Paul Kagame, in Morocco is King Mohammed VI, but both are governing countries with domestic circumstances. The Tutsi genocide for the former and the monarchy for the later, that are too unusual for them to serve as an example for the rest of the continent. 60 years after Africa's wave of independence, we are unfortunately still building states and nations that meet the needs of their citizens. I'm talking about states whose construction is coming up against recurring social-political crises and whose populations are struggling to adapt to them. It is also proving difficult to develop a new form of governance and a devolution of power that everyone can agree on, without which the democratization process initiated in the 1990s will move a hard time progressing further to grasp the urgency of the situation. All one has to do is list the number of elections that have been disputed or could be disputed. Africans are desperately waiting another kind of leadership, the sort that would eradicate incompetence, mediocrity, and thereby create a virtuous circle fostering excellence and efficiency for the benefit of the population. This would mean a more rational use of the skills that exist, because they do exist, by putting the right man and woman in the right positions to achieve the objectives set and see results. We need to develop new talents and move forward without fear. The continent would then no longer be forced to endure short-sighted and unqualified politicians just because they tick all of the unusual boxes belonging to the appropriate old boys club, as though those connections ensure stability, clan, religion, or ethnic group, and that allegiance to the head of the state. I'm referring to leaders who do everything in their power to suppress new talent out of fear that said talent could end up replacing them, when the very essence of the leadership is about preparing for the future and ensuring that what has been established will outlive the people who created it. This a frantic search for man and woman capable of helping Africa meet the enormous challenge it faces is not just limited to the political sphere. However, it inevitably extends to the corporate world, as only the private sector can absorb the workforce and minds that flood into the labor market. Every year and is best able to adjust the international competition and do its part to transform our economies or ensure long-term development. It also encompasses civil society and both our moral and intellectual elites. Everybody shares the same set of goals. I believe that, which are promoting new values based on our history and our culture, unlocking our very real but untapped, untapped potential, and proposing an initiative that will give rise to progress. As Sankara said, in this tempestuous time, we cannot leave it to our enemies of the past and the present to think and do, imagine, and create things for us. We also must do for ourselves. Okay? It's high time we need that advice, okay, to follow his advice. This is Bob Sankara. Thanks for watching.